would like to call the meeting to order at 7:02. I know people are continuing to trickle in, and our first business anyway is not all that interesting. We need to technically approve our agenda. So
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
thank you so much. Liz has it up on the screen. Do I hear a second from anyone?
Second from Liz.
Thank you, Liz, and we will do this in the affirmative. Are there any objections to the agenda? There's public comment at the end, and it's time to hear from candidates. So asking once, asking twice, and not hearing anybody in the third ask of objections, the agenda is approved. And so I will turn with great happiness to our special guests, thanking them so much to be here. Our first guest, Corrin Buchanan, is Undersecretary of the California Health and Human Services Agency, coming to the state in 2020 from Los Angeles, where she rose to become Deputy Director of the County Department of Health Services. A student at Berkeley in the aughts, including a stint as Robert Reich's lead graduate researcher, her experience ranges from AmeriCorps to teaching in prisons to PTA to systems change in government, including housing and homelessness issues, behavioral health diversion, reentry, and development efforts. Please do join me in welcoming Corrin Buchanan, who I hope will share some sense of what is happening on the ground in California's health and human services capacities day to day, as well as the prognosis for our capacities in the state, given the gamesmanship from Washington that threatens budgets, funding, and the future of programs so vital to our children's opportunity and all people's welfare here in the state of California. Thank you so much, Ms. Buchanan.
You so much, Sarah. What a very sweet introduction. You really did some research and found out. It's like a really nice remembering all these moments in my life when I got to do some, had the privilege and honor to do some interesting work. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm really, really happy to be with you all tonight. I serve as the Undersecretary of the California Health and Human Services Agency. So we are the umbrella entity in the state government that includes departments of healthcare services, Department of Social Services, Department of Aging, Department of Rehab. We don't oversee. We are comprised of and support 12 departments and 5 offices that all serve Californians up and down the state. So I want to start by saying, despite the times we live in, that our commitment, our governor and our secretary's commitment to a healthy California for all stands firm. And we also continue this drive towards equity that is really now built into our DNA. And we come with this very meaningful and heartfelt commitment that your zip code and your demographics shouldn't predict your health outcomes in California or anywhere. So I just wanted to start with that. And I will say, I did a little thinking about, where should I even start in the conversation? There are so many things we are challenged with today. There's no shortage of things to talk about, unfortunately. But we only have a little bit limited amount of time. So I thought I would focus a little bit on HR 1, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, as it is known, focus on the shutdown and some of the key impacted populations that we're really trying to pay some focused attention to. So I hope we have a little bit of time to talk too. That's my hope. So in terms of HR 1, I think you all know we've got some pretty significant and devastating impacts in front of us. And I'll talk first, I'll just sort of give you the broad overview first. We're going to see significant impacts to healthcare access, to low-income Californians being able to access assistance with food. We're seeing significant impacts to immigrant populations, including lawfully present residents, and we're going to see significant impacts to our rural communities. There's really significant changes to state financing of our Medicaid system, Medi-Cal. We're seeing huge impacts to immigrant coverage, reproductive health, impacts to our public health and health delivery system infrastructure, which means less funding to hospitals and doctors and clinics. So we're taking significant collective efforts to be able to mitigate the harm. That is like the name of the game right now, is all about mitigating the harm of each of these new policies. And especially in light of the additional federal policy changes that we're experiencing, things like tariffs, which are also impacting or likely to impact our state revenue, and just a budget situation that is going to impact our ability to be able to backfill some of these really drastic cuts in health and human services. So to go into a little bit more detail, specifically changes to the CalFresh or SNAP, what's federally known as SNAP, and what we call CalFresh in California. HR 1 is estimated to cut federal funding for CalFresh in California by anywhere between around 2 to 3.7 billion annually in CalFresh benefits, and as many as 400,000 Californians could lose eligibility for benefits due to the policy changes. So we're talking about populations like children and parents and caregivers and people with disabilities, immigrants, people who are experiencing homelessness, current and former foster youth and college students are all significantly at risk of losing benefits. So more people will be categorized as what's known as able-bodied adults without dependents. And there are fewer people who will be exempt from work requirements because of these changes. Significantly fewer lawfully present immigrants will qualify for CalFresh because of HR 1. And the benefit amounts that people receive through CalFresh will decrease for some individuals and households. Also on the chopping block, we are losing funding for what we call our CalFresh Healthy Living program. And that is a program that provided really vital nutrition education, and it's being cut across the country. The program is being eliminated, which, we're talking about an administration that purports to be focused on keeping Americans healthy while cutting vital programs that provide nutrition education. We are expected to see state admin costs increase from 50 to 75%, so less federal funding helping to support the administration of this program. And if a state has an error rate over 6%, the state will have to pay up to 15% of the costs of these CalFresh benefits. So this has never happened before. SNAP has always been a federally funded program, and there now may be up to $2 billion in state funding that would have to be put into the program that we will have to come up with somewhere if we want to maintain benefits. So on the Medi-Cal side, I have to say, I think it gets even worse. Watch out, the numbers get even bigger. We're looking at up to 3.4 million Medi-Cal members who may lose coverage because of the changes in HR 1, and $30+ billion in federal funding that is going to be at risk annually, and really significant disruptions to Medi-Cal financing structure for the safety net are all a part of what we're facing. So they fall into a couple of buckets. I could do a whole presentation that could take many hours on this, but they fall into big buckets of eligibility and access. So requiring work requirements for people to receive Medi-Cal, which is likely to simply because of administrative burden, not whether most people meet work requirements, but because of the administrative burden of these work requirements, we expect we will lose a significant number of people there will lose access. And rather than eligibility checks every 12 months, they will have to happen every 6 months, which will similarly lead to many people losing coverage. And we also have new cost sharing provisions that will likely impact access to care for beneficiaries. There are new state financing restrictions, like CalFresh. There are immigrant coverage limitations, and I know you all are closely tracking the abortion provider ban, which basically singles out Planned Parenthood and disallows Medicaid funds to flow to that important provider in our community. So that's the really bad news. But some of the things that we have been thinking about as we take a deep breath and roll up our sleeves just one notch more every day to approach these really tough policy changes, we've been thinking a lot about our immediate needs. So what kind of statutory changes would allow us to best mitigate these impacts? What kind of funding will go farthest to mitigating harm? What kind of communications do we need out out there so that our beneficiaries understand impacts, so that all Californians understand how these really important programs are changing and what we can do to help mitigate harm again. We're looking for opportunities for collaboration across programs. So how can we, for example, with work requirements, how can we, in both programs, use data to determine if people might be exempt from any of these new statutory changes? We're thinking a lot about technology innovations, all again focused on how do we keep people, how do we maintain access using technology to help us to do that. We're thinking a lot about what we need in terms of infrastructure at both the local and the state level to be able to help our healthcare systems and our social safety net systems weather this storm. We are thinking a lot about federal policy guidance. We unfortunately are waiting for a lot of the federal policy guidance and will be waiting for some time, which makes it really hard to prepare for and plan for these policy changes, some of which went into effect immediately and some of which will happen over the next couple of years. And then we're also thinking a lot about research and evaluation and trying to make sure that we are really tracking and able to tell the story of the short and long-term impacts of this policy. We want to be able to say, when this is all said and done, what this has meant for Californians, so we can really let history be the judge of these impacts. So that's my HR1 update. I will just briefly share a little bit about where we stand with the shutdown. We have two programs that I think are really important to this group. I mean, all of this impacts families and children up and down the state, but I wanted to focus on WIC and SNAP or CalFresh because of how integral they are to the security of families and kids in our state. So the WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Assistance Program, that provides resources to pregnant and breastfeeding and parenting Californians and their families, has funding to be able to provide resources at least through the end of this month, but we're just monitoring very closely what November may bring and how we can be prepared to support access and to make those resources last so that we don't end. What we want to avoid, if at all possible, is a lapse in those resources. So lots of advocacy that some of you may even be involved in happening now. And then similarly with the SNAP program, again, our CalFresh program in California, the governor shared yesterday that if we don't see a resolution to the shutdown soon, we may see a delay in benefits for SNAP in November. So SNAP serves 5.5 million households in California. And while October benefits are flowing and safe, there's a big unknown in terms of what will happen in November. And it may be that we'll have a significant issue if we don't see actions taken by the federal administration to address this issue. So we're tracking closely, thinking again some of the same things I talked about before. How do we mitigate these impacts? How do we make sure folks understand? And how do we communicate effectively to the people who are directly impacted, our advocates, our county partners, our grocers who are delivering these benefits, to make sure that we are keeping folks apprised and really understanding the impacts of these devastating changes. So wanted to briefly touch on, moving away from the shutdown, wanted to just briefly touch on a couple of communities that are really that we've been focusing on because of this significant and disproportionate impact. And the first I'll mention is immigrant families, where we've been really focused on access, especially to food and healthcare, because of data sharing that we are litigating currently. Much Medicaid data was made available to the Department of Homeland Security within our Medi-Cal program, and we're really concerned about the chilling effect that that has and will continue to have on access to healthcare. We're really focused also on just generally in the healthcare space, vaccine access, gender affirming care is one that's top of mind for us as well, especially for young people in California, which I thought you all might be wanting to considering as well. Again, as we think about these populations, we've also talked about reproductive health, but that's another big one as well in terms of the healthcare space. So again, we are focused on how do we mitigate the harm, how do we implement these policies and preserve the best of what we do. We can't backfill it all. How do we engage transparently? So we are seeking feedback from partners and those who are served. How do we use evidence-based decision-making in spite of the constraints that we face? And then we're also, as I sort of alluded to a couple of times, we're engaged in a significant amount of litigation right now. So the Attorney General's office has been really busy, and we are keeping them quite busy. I think at this point, we have filed about 24 lawsuits that are within our Health and Human Services arena. We make up, at this point, half, if not more than half, of all the lawsuits that have been filed by the Attorney General's office in our area. So not only is the Attorney General's office very busy, but our lawyers are really busy too, fighting back as much as we can. So just we'll end by saying that if you want to know more, if you want to engage more, we have a listserv, a CalHHS listserv. We have been doing regular webinars. We have a couple of webinars up that are focused specifically on how we are responding to what's going on at the federal level and how it impacts our goals of creating a healthy California for all. We'll continue to do these webinars on a monthly basis, and we have one, shameless plug, we have one coming up on Monday, and would love it if you all could participate. I'll throw in some information on that into the chat. We really want to hear from community. So you all are on the ground, and I think if you have feedback, we're really interested, want to understand what much of this feels like for Californians in all parts of our state. So thank you all so much for being interested and for caring about this and for asking me to come and get to tell you a little about what we've been up to and the significant fight we have ahead of us and the work to do to support our populations. So thank you.
Wow. Wow, that's so interesting. Thank you so much. Do you have time for a couple questions?
I do, yeah.
Oh, awesome. I don't know if anyone wants to raise their hand or.
There's one in this. There was one question that was DM'd to me, but if anyone else wants to raise their hand, they can.
Okay.
So I will read the one that was DM'd to me. I don't know if this is in your purview at HHS, but for those of us in the Sierra and other parts of the state that get significantly cold over the winter, LIHEAP, which is a program from the federal government that pays energy bills and which helps our community get through the winter. Do you know if there are any significant changes coming to that program?
So LIHEAP is in our agency, community service and development department, and LIHEAP has been in the President Trump's budget proposal proposed to slash LIHEAP, but we understand that for I think no immediate threats. That was just a proposal. LIHEAP historically has enjoyed bipartisan support, so we are hopeful that we won't see any. There's no immediate threats on the horizon, but these are unprecedented times, so we continue to keep an eye out on LIHEAP, especially because it was on the chopping block for a moment. So it's just such an important program. People think, we don't, in California, your weather is so mild, and that is not true. We're a very diverse state, and there are many families in California that rely on that program. So thanks for raising, and it's definitely on our radar.
So Nancy Salas Silva has the next question.
Yeah, I don't know if this is something that you can answer, or maybe someone from the group, but if there is a blue wave and we take control of the House or the Senate, given that a lot of these are going to be implemented, they're not effective yet, is there any way to undo anything that's in HR1 if we have a whole new House and Senate control?
You're getting out of sort of my area of expertise, and I'm not going to attempt to be a political pundit, certainly. But I do understand that, some of the initial conversations around the continuing resolution and avoiding the shutdown were around trying to roll back some of the most devastating impacts of HR1. And, ultimately the focus is really on enhanced premium tax credits right now. But initially there was some, rumblings around like we can't support a continuing resolution that doesn't do something about HR1. So that again, I'm not an expert, but that gives me some hope that there are ideas out there, but hard to say.
I have a question you may have addressed a little, but I understand that there's some intimate coordination, and maybe I'm wrong, between SNAP and CalFresh and the free and reduced price meals that are offered in schools. Do you have any sense of how these are impacted, or even more generally, the whole movement for community schools, which would bring some of these services into our schools?
Yeah, we've been working with our California Department of Education on community schools and supporting rollout. We've been especially involved on the behavioral health side, really trying to integrate some of the work we've been doing through what's called our Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, which is about bringing those resources to community schools and all schools across the state. I don't have, but anyways, I don't have an exact answer to your question in terms of potential impact to schools. I know that it's, California has really proud of the work that we've done to institute universally free meals, and I am not tracking anything specific to that and changes, I mean.
And I guess the underlying general question is, is California going to be able to make up this shortfall? How does this happen? How does it happen?
I think California can't make up the we won't be able to backfill many of these changes that are in HR1. So it is going to be about prioritizing what we can preserve and being as effective and streamlined and efficient as possible in terms of how we make policy decisions. And this is good. This is all much of this will play out in California's budget process in the coming year.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Any more questions from our group? Please.
Sam, do you want to unmute, or do you want me to read it for you?
Sure, no, I can. Thank you. I just was super appreciative of the presentation and wondering if there's any resources being planned under the California Youth Behavioral Health Initiative or other initiatives to help families maintain their coverage with, the big bad bill impact.
This is like the topic du jour, and will be for some time, is thinking of all of the players across our health and human services landscape who can be tapped to help folks maintain Medi-Cal coverage and to maintain CalFresh coverage. And so we're thinking a lot about, yes, Children Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, but also the investments that we've made in community health workers or promotoras that have been embedded in various parts of our social services and health services delivery system. We've been thinking about how our aging system can provide navigation services, how our Department of Developmental Services and our Department of Rehab wasted no time in saying we have to be a part of saving access for our clients too. We want the messaging, we want to be engaged in all of the discussions about how we keep people enrolled. So the answer is very much yes. This is a big part of why it's helpful to have an umbrella entity, because we're really trying to do that coordination among partners to help make sure that we've got all focused on the goal of helping people maintain their coverage.
I suppose there's a danger of becoming very institutionally heavy with all that coordination that has to happen. I mean, that's the point, is it's just inefficient, right?
Of high administrative burden.
Ugh.
Yeah, so we're trying to make it as easy as possible and using as we call it, ex parte, trying to use any administrative data we may already have to determine if someone is either exempt from work requirements, or we can determine that they've already met them and we don't have to bother them with mailers and paperwork and all of that stuff.
And one of the extraordinary, things on the chopping block federally is all kinds of data collection and storage and analysis. We'll never know. But it sounds like California has some of that covered a little bit.
Yeah, definitely trying.
We're at the end of questions. So.
I'm sorry, Matthew, there's another question?
No, we're at the end of the questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, my dear colleague Sam, Deputy Secretary for Legislation at CalHHS, joined us too and was able to put in a couple of how you can join our listserv, and shared the link for our last webinar that we did. And we hope that folks will stay engaged in what we're up to.
I'm looking forward to that, and we'll put it on our Facebook group and we'll send a blast out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, so much.
Thank you for making time for us, and maybe you can stay for our next guest. I don't know if you have the time, but Nancy Sala Silva will introduce Mr. Reginald Carter, who is a colleague, I believe, in the Los Angeles area. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to introduce my boss. So Reginald Carter, he started his career with the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services, better known as DCFS. He started over 30 years ago after receiving his MSW from UCLA. And since then, Mr. Carter has worked as a frontline children's social worker, then promoted to a supervising children's social worker, then to an assistant regional administrator, and then the regional administrator, which is an office head. So within the office, he worked his way up through each of the levels to become office head. And he finally landed after that, landed in his current role as deputy director. And deputy director oversees entire bureaus. So as deputy director for the Bureau of Specialized Response Services, he oversaw the department's 24-hour operations. That includes emergency response command post, which is the after hours holiday, the child protection hotline, which takes in all of the calls, and the placement support division that supports finding placement for our children and youth who require a placement. But as of last year, he returned to his SPA 6 roots and is now the deputy director overseeing the offices located within SPA 6. And in his tenure, Mr. Carter has worked with many diverse communities from South LA to the San Gabriel Valley. He's also been afforded the opportunity to work with a variety of community-based organizations and faith partners of varying services and denominations. He's presently one of the departmental leads for eliminating racial disparity and disproportionality, as well as the Father Strong initiative, which he will touch upon in a few minutes. Mr. Carter is committed to the mission of the department and works diligently to improve the outcome for the children and families of Los Angeles County. So I pass it on to you, Mr. Carter.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. And thank you, Nancy. And thank you guys for having me. I'm gonna preface this by I'm speaking on behalf of Reginald Carter. Not necessarily all my views will be, sorry about that, will be in agreement with everything that the department might say. But I am a lifer with the county, and so I'm all in for the children and families of Los Angeles. I'm not sure how much you guys know about DCFS, so I'll just give a brief overview. Is that we basically are the county agency that receives and investigates incidences, thank you, of child abuse and neglect. There has to be a nexus to the abuse. It applies to parents and caregivers specifically. We get a lot of calls from all over, schools, police, hospital, etc. But there has to be a nexus to abuse to the kids. Truancy and other things do not count. Our job is not to detain kids, despite whatever the public sentiment is out there. Our job is to ensure the safety of kids. And what we deem safe is we try to keep them with family as much as possible. Detention is the last resort. in terms of bringing kids into our care. And when we do have to do that, the overwhelming majority of the time, anywhere from 50% to upwards of 90%, depending on which office you're working in, these kids are placed in the home of family members, which is our preference. So we continue to work on that. As a department, and I won't get into all the nuts and bolts, but in terms of the climate of our country right now, we too are being impacted to some degree. There have been cuts, and we've had to do curtailment in terms of resources and spending. We've been able to do that in a way that has not had any immediate impact on the resources available and or any staffing levels thus far. It's funny, I just literally had a text with our director and some others, and we don't foresee necessarily that taking place anytime soon with the current climate. However, we do have to be cautious of what's going on. And so we are in a more cautious pattern than we normally might have been regarding new initiatives and programs. However, we are not losing any current programs or any staffing. The levels will remain the same for the foreseeable future, as far as we can tell at this point in time. That being said, I do want you all to understand that we are committed to the children and families of Los Angeles. We continue to focus more so on than we ever have on prevention efforts through the FFPSA, using those dollars, which are now getting close to being used up, if not already used up. However, there are some lingering programs that are out there. We look at prevention as a key component of how we've been able to reduce our caseloads by 40% over the last 5 to 6 years. If you would look back several years ago, we were upwards of 30,000 children in care. We're now in the 18,000 range. So it's come down significantly over the last 5 or 6 years. Our work with community, faith-based, community-based organizations, and others is how we have been able to do this. We realize we cannot do this work alone. And so working together with the community to preserve families, and when we do have to, again, bring them into care, to get them home as quickly as possible, because we don't do a good job raising kids. When kids grow up in our system, the outcomes are not good in terms of graduation rates, in terms of incarceration, and others. So we do our best to help the family unit, preserve the family unit. Hopefully they are better off after contact than they were before, so that we can preserve that family unit and they can grow up where they should be, which is with their family, as long as that is done so in a safe manner. To that end, Nancy mentioned our what I'm gonna call ERDD efforts, eradicating racial disproportionality and disparity efforts. That is an effort that focused on the disproportionate or disparate outcomes related to African American families. From that initiative, we focused on a few things that we could control. We focused on father engagement efforts. We focused on prevention. We focused on well-being. Now, the tenets that came from this movement, while they were able to reduce the entry of African Americans into care, it was based in practice. And as a result, not only did the number of African Americans entering care, so did our Latino families, so did our Caucasian families. The numbers went down across the board because it was focused on practice. And one of the statements that I always say is, when you help the least of these, you help everyone. And that has proven to be true thus far, knock on wood, and hopefully we will continue those efforts. So then just real quickly, our father engagement efforts is one of the initiatives that we focus on, where we were looking at fathers and paternal family in a way that we had not done so before. That's initially been going now for approximately, I'm gonna say 8 to 10 years. We now are returning children to non-offending fathers, where we would not have even looked at that situation 10 years ago. We are looking at paternal family more so for placement than we have in the past, not only for placement, but also just to be supports for the family units. You can get supports from both sides of the family, even though sometimes that might prove to be more difficult than others when you're dealing with both sides of the family. However, it's all about the well-being of the children. And so that's why we focus on those efforts. We also again, I mentioned the preventative efforts in my particular location in Spot 6, South LA, that covers the Compton, Carson, Hawthorne, what we call Water Ridge, and the Vermont corridor, basically all around South LA. We have a number of different initiatives that are focusing on prevention. One of those is the Family Stronger Together initiative, where in the emergency response phase, we are providing linkage to services through one of our community partners. We employ what we call cultural brokers, which are community members that will assess families, look at what we have provided as a referral, see if it coincides, but really assess the families to get to their underlying need and link them to the appropriate services, whether that be parenting, substance abuse, counseling, even preventative legal services such as eviction evasion, housing support, financial assistance, etc. And thus far, that program has been going on for about 5 or 6 months, and we have had outstanding outcomes. As of September, there were 301 youth that were referred, and only 15 had to be brought into care. The others were closed out with services in place and or remain at home. And of those 15, 10 of those were what we call are at large, meaning we can no longer locate the family, so it was a detention at large. So really, it was 8 or 9 kids that had to be detained. I'll take 96, 97% in terms of keeping them out of our system any day. And so it's services like that and programs like that that are allowing us to continue to keep families and kids together and keep kids safely at home. Now, another point that I do want to touch is that immigration. That was one of our concerns. There had been media reports and social media type things that are going on that show DCFS involved in raids, and those are not factual at all. What you may have seen are our MART, which is our law enforcement entity that works with our unit that works with law enforcement. They might have gone out because there were children involved and they were there with them, maybe for a detention or maybe just for support should there have been kids there. But thus far, in terms of our contact with ICE, we've had a handful of parents that we are aware of that have been picked up. And these are not general raids. These are one example is a stakeout. Basically, a gentleman was coming out of his mom's house and on his way to work. And when he was getting in his car, he was picked up. Those are the types of things that have happened. Now, we did receive information regarding ICE wanting to deport a youth to another state. We immediately connected them with the minor's attorney and our counsel, and we're doing all communication through them. You must have a court order. It must be proper before we do anything. And in the one instance that I am aware of, after communication with the attorney, there has been no further contact. That child is still in care with her family, and things are going well. Unfortunately, we are unable to do anything about the situation regarding the parents. We do have a special immigrant status unit that also works with our children, trying to ensure their safety, immigration status, although a lot of that is on hold right now in terms of what they can do in terms of the legal status for some of our children. And so that is something we're going to have to continue to work on. But thus far, knock on wood, no children have been detained, deported that I am aware of or that Nancy's aware of that have come to our attention. And we will, again, continue to work with the powers that be to make sure that continues to be the case. I'm not sure how much more you guys would like to hear from me, but I'm open for any questions that you might have regarding any of the efforts that we're involved in regarding prevention or just general DCFS questions.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here for questions. I don't know if anyone, Matthew has been looking in the chat, and I'd like to invite anyone who has one to raise a hand also. Matthew?
The first one was DM'd to me. So I'm sorry. Can you talk about the future of both financial and non-financial support services for kinship care placements, such as CalWorks, KinGap, and the Kinship Support Services Program? Are they under threat? What does the future look like, especially with HR1 on the horizon?
CalWorks can't really speak to that. That is really not us. But Ken Gap, it could be if it's lingering. However, at the present time, my understanding is we're not being affected directly. Whether it's that program, whether it's staffing, none of the programs, from what I have been informed, are not there. Now, again, could that change in 6 months? Should things continue as they are? It's possible. But thus far, I am not aware of that. And Nancy and I will actually look into that further so that I can give you more detailed and accurate information. But from what I am aware of thus far, not being affected just yet. But I'm not sure about how far in the future we will have to be. We can go before we are affected.
So the second question was, is the goal of the department still reunification? It seems like the emphasis on reunification has slipped within the past several years.
Well, yes and no. It depends on how you look at it. Our goal is actually prevention, to keep kids from coming in altogether. And again, we have been able to do. I think we've done I'm gonna say fairly good job at that, because again, when you're reducing your population, you're keeping kids from coming in by 40%. That is the goal. Now, reunification, when we do have to bring children into care or detain, is still the primary goal, to return kids safely to their parents or to whoever the caregiver was as quickly as possible. We have federal measures that we have to go by that trying to return within the 1 year, 2 years, and ongoing. And I'm not sure if you are, I don't want to say confusing, but are you alluding to adoption versus reunification? The number one goal for us is to maintain the family unit. When we cannot, it is to reunify as quickly as possible. And then if we can't do that, it is to develop a permanent plan for the youth, whether that is legal guardianship or adoption, hopefully with family whenever possible. But in some situations, you might be with a foster parent or adoptive home. But the goal is still to maintain the family unit and or reunify with families. So let me make that part clear.
This person who doesn't want to be identified, but was saying it seems like the permanent plans have moved past reunifying with the biological parent and now towards a permanent placement elsewhere, especially in Los Angeles County. Can you speak to this at all, or is this just an anecdotal experience?
It could be their experience. They could be referring to what we call concurrent planning. We have been doing that for quite some time. So when a child does come into care, we do immediately, again, the number one goal is still to reunify. However, we are concurrently identifying potential relatives or whomever who could provide long-term care. So I could see how someone could see that depending on their situation. However, it's still the number one goal is to reunify. But if we cannot, as opposed to waiting to the 9th hour or the 11th hour, I should say, we are looking at that concurrent plan simultaneously. That's why we call it concurrent planning. And so they could be referencing that. But again, I would have to know more details about their particular situation. But I can see how they might say that. But again, let me assure you, at least in my area, and I believe all over the department, because concurrent planning is not something new. It's been around for quite some time. And despite the concurrent planning, again, I'll reiterate, the number of kids coming into care has significantly gone down. But the unfortunate part of that is the cases that are coming in are not a dirty house. They're not a basic case. They are a level 7, 8, 9, or 10 level case in terms of the needs. And so some of those situations might go into long-term care. But the idea, again, is still to reunify whenever possible.
My queue of question is done, Sarah. So if anyone else has if they want to raise their hand, you can. I know. That's it for me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also, let me just ask, I mean, it sounds like there's a specific case that somebody has in mind. Are you open to and also that they may not want to be, the name used, but if they're open, is it okay for us to share your information to be in touch?
Sure. Let me preface that. Again, it's hard for me to touch on a particular case. If all else fails, I can explain to them, maybe from my point of view, what took place. And if we need to get them in contact with that officer of the situation, depending on when it is, or when it was, I should say, and where it was it happens. I've been in community meetings where someone's mentioning something, and then I have the conversation with them out after the meeting, and it was from Orange County. There was
Uh-huh.
nothing I could have done about that. So I
Right.
mean, so yeah, but no, I'm more than open with them communicating with me about the situation.
This person just DM'd me and said it is a specific case that they are personally involved with right now. So it might be a little too close to the case. So,
Okay. Well, you
Yeah.
guys let me know.
And unfortunately, we can neither confirm nor deny if someone has an open case. So there's also that
Right.
barrier.
Right.
Right.
There is a confidentiality matter. Right.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy to try and insert myself in the in way, and I appreciate you very much being here and being available and listening to these things. It's obviously I was talking with Nancy the other day. I'm not sure if people here realize just exactly how huge DCFS is. I gather, did I have this correct? 9,000 employees?
Approximately just under 9,000 employees. Correct. That is from support staff all the way up to the director, the majority being social workers, but yes, 9,000 employees.
That's amazing. And approximately, are there so forgive me, I'm a statistician, so I worry about data all the time. So what proportion of families are involved with DCFS at some point approximately in Los Angeles, do you know? Approximately.
I cannot tell you. Again, we have approximately 18,000 kids in care right now. That number has been, 20 years ago, it might have been in the 40s. 10 years ago, it was, excuse me, 30, 36 or so, and now we're down to 18. There is some data out there that is not necessarily DCFS data that talks about the percentage of kids who were contacted by DCFS or by the time of 18. I can't remember what that information is, but I'll try to see if I can find that. But I couldn't tell you what portion of the population is there. I can tell you maybe some demographic information regarding ethnicity and others, but not that particular stat.
I'm just interested in how important and large a piece of our social services in the landscape this is out there. And also, I appreciate the conversation about immigration. I mean, to the extent that the stress involved with the current landscape, I know our teachers and people in schools report just the people in trauma everywhere, just very hard to survive day to day. I would imagine that would have a big impact on DCFS, although maybe there's a lag period before that, evinces itself. I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't, in terms of call volume, it has not gone up significantly as a result of this. However, that remains to be seen. We do have a screening process that, again, we try not to be punitive. Those numbers have come down significantly over the last 8 to 10 years in terms of the number of calls we actually take that are referral. Again, there has to be a nexus to abuse, not just because you feel like something happened. Same thing with the immigration status, and same thing with school situations, even medical professionals who sometimes get a little upset because they feel like something's going on, but they cannot articulate the nexus to abuse. So, but knock on wood, again, thus far, we have not felt a significant, I'll say, impact regarding this particular matter.
Well, it seems like a terrific, ideological, I don't know if shift is too strong a word, but, or achievement anyway. I appreciate it from out here. All this work is amazing.
We're trying.
Thank you. Are there others with questions?
No more in the chat.
Okay, well, I thank you for joining us, and I'd be delighted if you want to stay or if you need to move on with your evening. We certainly understand that too.
Sure. Got a few more minutes. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll stick around for a little bit.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we will turn to the business portion of our meeting. We undertook the order of operations here a little unusually because our first guest had to move very quickly, but we'll go back to the beginning where we would like to consider a land acknowledgement, even though we are virtual, and our Northern Vice Chair Matthew Hilliard will take it from here. Matthew?
Thank you. So Indigenous Californians are a diverse group of nations and peoples that are indigenous to the geographic area that we now call California. Before and after European colonization, we are still here. There are currently 109 federally recognized tribes in the state and over 40 self-identified tribes or tribal lands that have applied for federal recognition. California has the largest population of Native Americans in the United States, but because of the vast population of our state, the percentage of the total population is quite small. If you know the indigenous tribe or tribes of which you live in or on the lands on which you reside, you can put it in the chat now. If you don't know, we have it up on the screen as well, and we can put the link for it to be found in the chat. Following California's statehood, a state-enabled policy of elimination was carried out against the Aboriginal people, known as the California Genocide, and the establishment of Anglo-American settler colonialism. The Native population reached its lowest in the early 20th century, while cultural assimilation into white society became imposed through Indian boarding schools. Native Californian peoples continue to advocate for culture, for homeland, for sacred sites, and for the right to live. And so I also just wanted to share California Native American Day happened. Hold on, let me share this. Let's see. Sorry about that. One second.
While Matthew's looking for his pictures, I'll just mention that Liz put into the chat, I think, a really interesting site about the distribution of Native peoples in California. If you have a chance, take a look at it.
I'm having a little bit of a trouble sharing my screen, but I just want to tell you that we had California Native American Day at the Capitol, and I'll put some links to some pictures in the chat. Just very proud of our kids that took part in that, and some of them were also the same kids that were going down the Klamath River. Some of you know about the Klamath dams coming down, and so they took part in the first kayak all the way down the Klamath River, probably in over 100 years. So we're just super proud of them. So thank you, Sarah, for letting me share that. And I'll put the link in the chat. Thank you, guys.
That'll be great. I've seen some of those pictures. They're very, they're very exciting. It makes your heart very big. Great. Well, we will move forward with our business. Our treasurer, Tiffany Sickler, had another engagement, but I think she may be on the call. Tiffany, are you here too, or maybe she dropped off again?
I'm here, but I'm driving, so I can't participate. I'm sorry.
No problem. I will just mention that our caucus memberships, we are just shy of 350 people, and we have a balance that's close to $5,700. So we'll be able to pay for milk and cookies at Monterey. If any of you can join us, we'll be having an in-person networking social that we'll share with 3 other caucuses: the Black Caucus, the Senior Caucus, and the Small Business and Professionals Caucus. I think some of their chairs are maybe even here on the call with us tonight. It'll be an opportunity to get together and maybe talk about questions about what the caucus does and some of the situations on the ground that many of us are facing, especially in school boards and candidates and the like. So those situations on the ground, I think, are really, key in everyone's mind. Of course, Prop 50 right now, a lot of people have been working very hard about that. And as our officers check in and tell us what they've been up to, maybe they can focus maybe with the idea of encouraging others and getting out the vote on that. Other issues, certainly, well, we've been hearing from our speakers tonight about the impact of the federal legislation. I think everybody is perhaps familiar with the news today about 7 of the 9 higher education institutions that were sent a letter from the federal government having rejected them. I think that's very, very important. It looks like Matthew's got his photos of Native American Day up. Do you want
I
to
didn't
share?
know that. I'm so sorry.
No, no, that's fine. Go for it.
So I'll just share a couple. So these are our kids up here on the top, just very, very excited about what they did. They performed ceremony on the Capitol grounds from the Karuk tribe and the Yurok tribe. So here's a couple of pictures of them. So we're super proud of them. Thanks, Shara. Sorry about that. I didn't know it popped up.
No, it's great. Absolutely. And it gives people the impetus to go find it from the link in the chat too. And we will send those around because who doesn't love looking at these pictures? It's much better than talking about what I had in mind, which is the things like the situation with the Department of Education, the federal government taking advantage of the shutdown to follow through with their initial plan to essentially redundify the Department of Education and its work with Title I and especially special education programs. They furloughed almost 2,000 people in the spring, and now they've laid off another 500 or so with RIFs, basically decimating and beyond special education. I think some of the money is still flowing for some of the grant programs, but there's concern of how long that will go for. I have a couple of links you can take a look. There is a wonderful article in the Chronicle of Higher Education decrying the assault on academic freedom, and I'm really heartened to see that our institutions may be starting to band together and to fight back against this kind of appalling, ransom of resources for ideology. I think that's a step in the right direction. We'll see what happens. We heard from Corrin Buchanan about some of the impacts of the state, and from Mr. Carter, even more locally, at least in the Los Angeles area. I think we'll have an opportunity to talk about that among ourselves in Monterey. Other things that the caucuses have done is we've talked about legislation. We've sent around information about the grid we used for the legislation that we were supporting, much of which passed, some of which has become a 2-year bill, a little of which has been withdrawn. And I just want to invite our caucus members to use the form. We'll put that information in the chat, or you can find it. You can email me, or you can find it in our Facebook page, so that we can get together and try and be on top of these things in advance, know what's coming down the pike, and how we can urge CademCC to support or to oppose sometimes legislation. We can't, as a caucus, do anything on our own, but we can be here to guide the party's thinking. And when the party has weighed in as a Democratic whole, then we can take on that decision. And so I'd really like to encourage everyone to get involved with that. We have a YouTube channel, as I think everyone knows, where we had our forum with the superintendent of public instruction, the Democratic candidates, and you can take a look at that, and we'll leave those links there too. What else? The California Democratic Party is going to be revising its platform. It does so every 2 years, and it's in the process of that right now. If you would like to engage with that effort, take a look at the platform. We'll leave some links for where to find them, and please share written opinions. I'm happy to help with anybody who has ideas around that. And then the biggie, of course, the active support for Prop 50. A lot of us have been at phone banks and walking and knocking and talking, postcarding. Love to hear about what you're doing, and also from our officers about what they're doing at Monterey. If you're going to be in Monterey, we'll be phone banking, and also some people will be walking door to door there. And we'd love to invite you to join the phone bank if you are remote and will not be in Monterey. We can at least do that together spiritually. So we'll leave links for that, and that will be wonderful. And so now I'd just like to turn to our officers and to hear, what you've been doing and what your efforts with Prop 50 have been doing. I'll start with our person who coordinates our effort to cross-link some of the DEM clubs in this countywide DEM clubs that are up and down the state. And at least one of them is having a meeting tonight, so their members are not here. But we can hear from Janice about the effort to sort of organize across counties this way.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I've been out of pocket for the last few weeks out of the country, but I've been touching base with folks, and I think we are making progress in establishing an Alameda County DEM club. We are going to be working, we have the format for bylaws, and I'm going to be working with Vanita to start drafting some bylaws. And then also we will tap some of the other existing clubs to see if they might inform our bylaws. And then we can also then share this with other up and coming clubs. Also, there's been an effort in San Joaquin Valley to get some things started. And I think there isn't at this point enough support for a full club, but we thought, I was talking to about this tonight, and what we're thinking about doing is calling like a meeting, like working through the county DEM organization, and gather a group of people and say, hey, would you be willing to participate in a one-off meeting, and then use that as a launching pad for follow-up meetings, and then with the hopes that over time we will bring enough people together and garner enough interest to get a club going there.
Sounds great.
So that's where we're at right now. Sarah and I will connect soon and see what other areas might be some good breeding grounds as well.
And please reach out if anybody is interested in, trying to start one of these efforts, or to at least establish a committee within your county committee, your Democratic committee. We'll do what we can to support you and help you. And speaking of meetings, then we will, as a caucus, have meetings coming up. I think there's a lot of interest in maybe in January. I'm not sure if we can do it that quickly. Get together an issue on maternal health and maternal and child health. I think and infant health. I have interest in doing a program on ethnic studies. I know that people have talked about human trafficking. Certainly AI is in everyone's mind. If you have an interest in helping us plan a meeting, please be in touch. We have a Zoom screen and account, and we can do it when you want to plan it. So reach out. Let's hear, our Southern Vice Chair had a conflict tonight. Wade Kyle is not here. Matthew, did you have anything to add to your report of what's going on in the North Country?
Yeah, so we had a pretty raucous town hall with our very MAGA Republican up here in Chico that made the national news. It was like all over MSNBC. So there's a lot of people rising up all across the North State. I've been to a lot of different counties with this Prop 50 effort. There is a lot of response coming, and as we look at the return rates on some of the ballots, a lot of our counties have a much higher average than other parts of the state. And I think that has to do with our rural hospitals closing. There's a lot of threats to our farmers. There's a lot of threats to tariffs. There's a lot of threats to just cost of living and things like that over the rural part of the North State. I checked in with Sacramento County with a lot of their Prop 50 efforts, and they're doing a lot of door knocking. So pretty much all over Northern California, we've been kind of knee deep in Prop 50, as I'm sure everyone else is throughout the state. Sorry, I won't be able to join everyone in Monterey. I decided to stay here and just continue doing organizing for Prop 50, because I think it's going to be really important to have the rural parts of our state come out in force. I know the Central Valley is as well. Yeah, that's been like what we've been really focusing on here. Is really getting people out for Prop 50 and really understanding what this change is going to look like, because a lot of the changes in the maps are going to be up here in the far north. Our congressional districts are going to look very different. Like here in Siskiyou County, we're going to be districted out towards with the current Representative Jared Huffman, who's incredible. It would just be an incredible upgrade for us. So I know a lot of us are really motivated with that. There are threats to school boards, like always. They continue to have far-right people taking over a lot of school boards. So we're checking in and we're monitoring that in a lot of the northern counties, checking in with the Bay Area. I mean, you would think like some of these Bay Area places are not but they're not immune, to a lot of these threats to the school boards. I would like to turn it over to Tiffany, who has her hand raised, and maybe she could tell us a little bit more about Placer County. So,
yeah, Red Placer County. Thank you, Matthew. I'm super excited. We're really getting out for Prop 50 as well. And as you can imagine, in Placer County, there's a lot of resistance to we have Kevin Kiley up here, so there's a lot of red resistance to Prop 50. But I've been on the committee planning our Oktoberfest event. That's going to be on Thursday, and we have over 200 people attending, which is super exciting. There's a lot of energy behind it. It's going to be a great event, and I'm just all of the No King's Day things drew a lot of people, and a lot of people are out canvassing, door knocking for Prop 50, and I think it's been pretty successful. So I'm pretty hopeful up here.
Well, that's good to know. Let's work our way south a little bit into the Bay Area. Nelson, do you have anything to report from there? And then after that, Sam and Vinita, trying to think who's on the call.
Yeah, hey, good evening, everyone. Nelson, the comm director here at the caucus, and it's great to see everybody. It's great to be hanging out tonight. I just really want to thank the state party this time around. They have been operating at 100 miles an hour for Prop 50, and just the staffing levels and the capacity levels have just been incredible in organizing and calm and just voter engagement has just been amazing. So thank you, Cadem, for doing this. Wow, on the daily, I think we're all kind of dealing with these, for the past year, these very broad abstractions about austerity and all of the problems that are looming. And I've been very active with a lot of just indivisible chapters all over the country, right? And Ezra and Leah, all of that. And, what they're piloting is next year is that they are going to do something called SOS, which means sharing your stories, where the real frontline, effects of harm are going to be brought to the public level and broadcast, not just by viral social media, but just in direct meeting people where they are, right? And I was thinking, if anybody here in membership or not in membership, if you guys think this is a worthwhile project to really bring to the forefront the harm that is going to happen to our children and our working families, I'll drop my number in the chat. Absolutely. Maybe there is good work to be involved in trying to prompt a state-based SOS program forward, so that, people know what's really going on, right? There are people, families of 5 living in a 1-bedroom, and this is it, okay? All right, so drop my number in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for coming together tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Matthew has his hand up, and I also want to hear from others in the Bay Area, but what's up?
I just want to say, because I see Carolyn Fowler and other leaders of this party on, and I just really want to shout out Sue Hildebrand, who has been just an incredible, incredible resource to us in Northern California. She is, please just pay her more. We love her. She's just an amazing person. So we thank the party for everything that you've done in giving us Sue, because she's incredible. That's it. Thank you.
thank you. And I am so remiss. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I see lots of others here in great leadership roles. I know Hap Henry's here. He's been doing a lot on the south end of organizing. People from CSBA. We have DNC member Deborah Cunningham Skirnick, and I'm not sure if Annalise, if she was on earlier, she's probably still here, and Carolyn, as you said. Let's go through.
Andrew Lackman is here too.
Andrew Lackman is here, hopefully still. We would love to hear from anyone. Let's quickly go through our officers, and then if you guys, anyone who would like to, Christine Salazar, regional meeting, we'd love to hear from everybody. Vanita or Sam, do you have information to share from the Bay?
Yeah, I can jump in and I'll be brief and just do want to appreciate the team for that was such a content-rich presentation tonight from Health and Human Services and Reginald Carter. And so on that theme, I did talk to Vanita about organizing a few different forums on different content areas that where we really get to have rich discussions from different perspectives. So one proposal is, or I think the three topics that came up were food insecurity and how that interacts with the CalFresh cuts that we were hearing about tonight, ethnic studies, as you mentioned before, and then the first one I think I want to start with actually is the science of reading. With the new bill coming out, and there's been obviously lots of perspectives on phonics and science of reading, and is that a good development, or what cautions we should have. So we're going to be organizing a forum coming up in the next month or two. And I'll definitely, if people have suggestions for people who would be good experts for our panel, I've recruited a couple people so far, but would love to hear. I think I've reached out to a local phonics expert and then Californians Together for kind of that ELL perspective. But yeah, anybody with good ideas, I reached out to Wade too for help recruiting teachers. So that should be coming up. And yeah, looking forward to any other topics people want to. I'm happy to help organize if other people have other panels they want to hold.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Moving downward, Liz, our operations guru, and Corrin, our elections guru, is in the LA basin.
I just want to give a shout out to a lot of really great organizations from Dem clubs all over LA County, Westside Dems HQ, and so many other groups that are really organizing around Prop 50 and keeping the community moving forward. I think that it's so important to be able to win back the House and the Senate for 2026 and beyond. So I'm happy to coordinate with everybody, and our Dem Club's been very active, and so happy to see electeds come out and join because we know they're in it to win it too. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. What did they say about asking a busy person to do something? Liz is also a Dem Club president in the Westchester area, as well as running all the virtual schools in LAUSD. So thank you, Liz. Corrin, any words from the field?
Sorry, not that much. I'm just there participating behind the scenes, and that was about it. Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody here on the call.
No, thank you. And we were about to drop down to James Moffett, who's helpfully raised his hand. This is awesome. Let's hear from James.
Thank you. Sorry, I jumped on this call pretty late, but it's because I was phone banking for Prop 50 here in San Diego. I mean, we've been hitting the ground running like crazy, and it's been a lot of coalition work too. So not just Dem folks, right? We've seen WFP, we've seen DSA, everyone coming out for our union walks. This Saturday, the Dem Party has a mega walk at 10 a.m. So if anyone down here in San Diego County wants some information in that, I'll put my phone number in the chat as well. I personally have been phone banking every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, and knocking on doors on Saturday and Sunday. And I can honestly say, I really feel good about this. I think we're going to win it. Even the folks that I talk to that are we can't do this as Dems. We can't stoop down to their level, blah, 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 blah. After 30 seconds or a minute of talking to these folks, they see the importance and it's now or never, and fascism is no longer knocking on the door. It's here. So, boots on the ground. I've talked to union folks here, and we're all very confident. So as long as we get people out there and they go and vote, I think we got this. So yeah, it's been great.
That's wonderful to hear, and I certainly hope it's true. My less exciting things to report, which I will be quiet about because what's the point? I hope, and hope. We are there. We have at least 3 DNC members here. Would somebody care to weigh in? I see Andrew waving.
I just
his
want to
hand.
welcome also Sarah, our Lieutenant
Yes.
Governor, just
Yes,
entered the room. So.
Our candidates are here. Our Lieutenant and Governor candidates for SSPI are all coming on in. Andrew, did you have a word to say?
No, and I see I've got Deborah Cunningham here. We have Lisa Swan, as well as Carolyn Fowler and many others. We just completed a training in Las Vegas for the Western states, and we concluded it. 35 people came from as far away as Alaska to hear about the latest on messaging, the latest on deep canvassing, as well as how to use social media better. We were trained by the folks from Nevada Party who are very good at this. And then we also did panels on key constituency outreach, youth outreach, and rural outreach, and some best practices. It was amazing what we heard and what we learned about what's motivating young voters. Hint, it's the economy, and economy. But we concluded by doing a phone bank for Prop 50. It was hosted by the Carpenters in Las Vegas. It was amazing that almost all the people stuck around to hear Speaker Emeritus Pelosi speak and make calls. And I know you and I have been doing walking as well over in Culver City, Sarah. Great to see you. And I don't know if Annalisa or Deborah wants to bring anything more in. I do want to share with you that we won the mayorship of Fairbanks, Alaska, which has been held by a Republican for at least the last 20 to 30 years. We are overperforming by 6 to 8% or more in these districts. And it scared them so much that they don't even want to swear in our members of Congress when they're legitimately elected. So we got to keep pushing there. Thank you for those who are walking for Prop 50, calling, and those who showed up for No King's Day as well. Annalisa, Deborah, do you have anything else that you want to add? Because you two have been everywhere. Deborah, you hosted an amazing event the other day.
Okay, I'll start off about that. That was very exciting. A couple of weeks ago, we had Malcolm Kenyatta, one of the DNC vice chairs. And if any of you have had the privilege of hearing him speak or getting to know him, he's a remarkable young man. He is from Pennsylvania. He ran for Senate in 2022, first openly gay Black man to do so in the entire country. And he had a documentary made during this whole process, which wasn't just about his ambitions, it's over, but it was a love story because he met his husband, Matt, and they got married during this time. So he came out and spoke to a lot of weary people here in Orange County that call me, and I know they call all the DNC members, saying, where's our superstar? Where's our leader? And I keep telling them, we are the leaders. We are the superheroes. And so Malcolm talked about that. So the doubters now believe, and I think it's something we each need to reiterate with people. Look what happened on Saturday. 7 million strong across the country, like 2,700 cities. It was phenomenal. I was in Laguna Beach where there was approximately 2,500 people, which was great. We were singing and dancing, but we all understood the seriousness of why we were there. And when I drove home on El Toro, it cuts right through the one of the country's largest senior developments called Laguna Woods. They had 4,000 there, 4,000 angry seniors. So we are out there strong. And I don't know if any of you watched Rachel Maddow last night, but she gave an interesting statistic. Something in the effect of 3.5% of the population pickets or protests or whatever, that's when things can really turn. So I'm hoping whenever we have our next one, we will be even larger. I am so lucky to be working with Andrew and Elisa, Carolyn, and all these wonderful DNC members, and I'll let Annalisa kind of fill you in on how many of us got appointed to be on the different caucuses with the DNC.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I will just say, we're really well represented on the California DNC. Andrew Lackman was reelected as chair of our Western region. Carolyn Fowler was elected as the Western region rep for the Black Caucus. And Carolyn, also congratulations on your honor at the Roosevelt Awards for the Los Angeles County Democratic Party as one of the lead honorees at that event. Deborah Cunningham Skurnick and I were appointed by Chair Martin to the Resolutions Committee at the DNC, and so it's been very exciting considering the resolutions at the national level. Chef Basil Kimbrough, who is not a DNC member, was elected as a co-chair of the DNC Veterans and Families Council. Secretary of the State Party, Diana Love, was elected to a position at the Poverty Council. Susie Shannon was elected through the DNC Western region as a at-large DNC member. And I will say this is the first time that DNC members have been able to elect at-large members and elect folks to the standing committees. And that's thank you to Chair Martin's democratizing of the DNC. We elected Christine Pelosi and Lawrence Saxon as executive board members of the DNC through the Western region. And we elected Gary Shea to Rules and Bylaws through the Western region. And that's just some examples of how we're representing in our California delegation at the DNC. I think that on the Resolutions Committee alone, we're almost about 40% of that committee, with 6 of us from California serving on that committee. And so that's just an example. Larry Gross, our region director for Region 14, was elected to a position on the Poverty Council. Susie Shannon was reelected as chair of the Poverty Council. So just really some amazing activism in our delegation. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, Andrew, were you trying to talk?
Just I know there's a long list and a lot to memorize there, and Annalisa did amazing with that. But also Derek Devermont was reelected chair of the Disabilities Caucus. Joe Salas was elected a regional rep to the Western states for the Latino Caucus, and Otto Lee and Keith Yamamoto were elected officers of the AAPI caucus, with Hari Krishnan appointed to as the outreach director. So we are just everywhere.
And that's why Andrew is our Western Region's chair, because he remembers it all. Thank you, Andrew.
Lisa nailed it. She had, that's a long.
Oh, I know. Yep. And
we had one question in the chat, Sarah.
Oh, please.
It seems like, so this is from someone who DM'd me. It seems like I saw more of Tom Perez, Jamie Harrison, and other chairs than I've been seeing of Ken Martin. Is this intentional? Why is he not out there more explaining what our party is doing at this crucial time?
I mean, he is very much out there. Keep in mind that, we're seeing less of the conventional media and more social media as it's decentralized. And as we know, the corporatization of media hasn't helped us either, in terms of shutting off some of our message out there. But Ken is very much all over this country. He's been having meetings in person in rural areas. He's been out to California, I think 5 or 6 times already. He is very much out there, but he has a team and folks like Malcolm and Shasti Conrad and I know I'm missing another one here, but and Artie, Artie as well. All these folks, Artie Blanco, they're out there doing this as well, showing up at Democratic Party events, speaking to the media, etc. So he is out there. It's a lot more. It's just a different kind of media than we were in 2018, or at least that's my impression. Annalisa?
I was just going to say, we're very lucky that the DNC leadership is comprised of organizers. Like Ken Martin is a real organizer coming from the state party being a state party chair. So, if you follow social media, you'll see him canvassing for down ballot Dems because his motto is organize everywhere so we can win anywhere. And he is doing that. And same thing with Artie Blanco coming from organizing in labor, and Shasti Conrad, the chair of the Washington State Party, and Malcolm Kenyatta too, who is a Pennsylvania state representative. He knows how to canvass and connect with voters in the community. And so you're seeing all the vice chairs and the chair do the work.
Yeah.
And, Chair Martin, I don't think he's had any days off. He literally is traveling across the nation, just meeting with Democrats, having those sort of deep canvas kind of conversations to connect with folks and rebuild the party, and sort of rebuild the brand too, as being the party of working people.
I mean, he did 2 events in LA recently. One was with Hilda Solis and immigrant small business leaders about how ICE's activities have hurt small businesses and hurt immigrant communities. He did another one on poverty. And I know he's coming out to LA. I almost forgot the next DNC meeting is going to be in Los Angeles in mid-December as well. So we'll be in the spotlight. But he is doing a lot of those things, and it's a lot of media on a local level. But there's always room for improvement. That's for sure.
And while I understand completely the question about the leadership being visible, it is also the case that this is a democracy and we are the cavalry. It is us, as Deborah was saying, that Mr. Kenyatta was saying, oh, I'm so sorry to have missed that event. I am a big fan of his. It is just us. It is on us to save this, all of us. So leaders inspire us, but it's still us who have to go knock these doors and talk to our friends and put up with the awkward embarrassment of these difficult conversations.
Well, the key in all of this, especially on Prop 50, is an example, you guys being the cavalry. We were at an LACDP event the other night. A local school board member from the South Bay came to me and said, I want to do a phone bank. We connected her with the grassroots headquarters, and she's going to be putting one together. There's lots of opportunity for each and every one of you to show leadership. We have time left, but we have to get out there and keep pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure that we're not taking a single corner for granted.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anyone who wishes to speak as a leader or from the community? Have a moment to share. We also have some candidates waiting to speak to us, but we want to hear your heart. Raise your hands. And Hap, our grassroots STEM coordinator, please.
Thank you, Sarah. Really quick, my name is Hap Henry. I am involved on a number of levels with the party. I am also involved with the facilities advisory committee with the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District. And we're a high severity fire zone in Malibu, and we have many high severity fire areas in our state. One big issue I hear over and over is how the increase in homeowners insurance and fire insurance is forcing families out of high severity fire zones. So I understand it's a very complex issue, but it is a problem, and it's going to continue becoming more and more of a problem if we are not able to address that. And I don't want to see our rural schools in these high severity fire zones lose enrollment. It would be devastating.
Thank you. Absolutely. Cody. Oh, I think you're, Cody, I think you're muted. Sorry. Can you start again? I think you're still muted. Well, let's see if I can, you should be able to just unmute. Try now. Nope, we're not hearing you. It's probably something on your end. Oh, hello?
All right. I got rid of my, can you hear me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Wonderful. I'm going to speak as a candidate 1 second, but can I just say something very briefly
about
my other role?
Please.
Okay, great. I'm board president, San Diego Unified, and I just very briefly want to bring something to the attention of this body. I think it's important right now.
I'm sitting there thinking going like this.
Am I good? Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
I'm not sure who's.
We can hear you. I'm gonna be muting people. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I
That's
don't
all
want
right.
to cook your lunch.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say something very briefly in my status as board president, San Diego Unified. The DACA injunction is likely to be lifted in the next several days, and that will lead to a very brief time period in which individuals who are DACA eligible, there's only about they need to be between 18 and 26 at this point. There will be a brief period of time in which the Trump administration will frantically try to put together regulations to stop DACA registration, but there will be probably less than 90 days. So the most important thing for school districts to be involved in, very few kids will be left that will be the appropriate age, but really the only way to prove continuous residency is going to be to go back to your high school to your K through 12 transcripts. And so I'd love to get in contact. We're working with Alliance San Diego. We've got 20,000, likely 20,000 eligible students here in San Diego who are DACA eligible to register. And we want to our goal is to get up to 10,000 registered in the next 90 days once the injunction gets lifted. So I would love to work with people here on school boards or in their various statuses to try to get as many kids DACA registered as possible in that brief period of time that opens up. So I'll put my school district email in the chat and please reach out to me.
Thank you very much. And we want to hear from others in the community, but I have had a message that our Lieutenant Governor, who is here to speak as a candidate, might have an engagement to go through. So we'll go back and forth. If you're a community member with something to say, put your hand up.
Sarah, I'm fine. I'm good. And I'm enjoying listening in. So go ahead and finish up. I'm all right.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We may be finished. Does anyone want to speak for the good of the order or something going on in your neighborhood that we would like to hear about? You'd like to share, brag? Okay, well, we will move on, but you can raise your hand if it occurs to you afterwards. Let us move to Ms. Kounalakis, please, the governor. Thank you, the honorable.
Sarah, thank you. It's so good to be with you. Great to be with you all. I know I really enjoyed that. I appreciated listening to all of our DNC members. We've got such great representation from California at the DNC. Andrew, who is such a pro for so long, and some new members. And it was just great to hear that update. And I'm also really happy to hear you all talking about the impact of Donald Trump's horrible policies on California families and kids. But as Sarah noted, I'm here just to take a couple of minutes to talk to you about my campaign to be the next state treasurer. So I am sure that I met most of you or many of you. I'm a regular at Democratic Party conventions on virtual as well as in person, e-boards. I worked at the state party when I was right out of graduate school. And so it's nice to see all of you again. Briefly on my background, I spent almost 20 years in Sacramento working in our family business, building housing communities. When I was 43, I had the opportunity to join the Obama administration and serve as a United States ambassador. And then in 2018, I ran for office for the first time. I ran for lieutenant governor, and I was elected California's first woman elected lieutenant governor of our state. Since my election in 2018, I have worked very hard at supporting the governor, even though we are in separate constitutional offices. We've had a lot of great collaboration. I've been chair of the State Lands Commission. I fight for environmental protection, for education, particularly higher education, as a member of the UCCSU and Community College. And I have fought for fiscal responsibility and for equity, again, as the first woman in this position. I'm running now to serve as state treasurer because I believe the treasurer must have the ability to bring strong fiscal experience and responsibility to the office of the treasurer. And I am sure, just objectively, that I have more experience in this space, both building master plan housing communities and all of the complicated financial public financing mechanisms that went along with that, as well as serving now in my 7th year in statewide office. So the treasurer's office, I think most of you know the big picture things that the treasurer's office does, including managing about $3 trillion in transactions every year, serving as the agent of sale for all of California bonds, serving on the bond finance committees for everything from health facilities, education, clean energy, advanced transportation, and of course for affordable housing tax credit programs. So it might seem a little bit of a leap to go from talking about being the treasurer and managing our state's finances to also talking about housing. But the affordable housing tax credit programs that are managed by the state of California are largely managed through the treasurer's office, which is something I'm very excited about taking on. Treasurer also sits on CalPERS and CalSTRS, which is very important for the retirement funds that will fund the benefits for millions of hardworking California retirees. And I'm racing through this because I want to talk to you all specifically about one program that I think is so exciting and so important for the work that you all put front and center, and that is for our kids. So California has a 529 program, the Cal Kids program, and the Scholar Share program. The treasurer is the chair of the Scholar Share Investment Board. There are over $16 billion under management by that board, and the beneficiaries are hundreds of thousands of California kids whose parents are either making those contributions or family members or others making those contributions for them to save for college, but also about $2 billion that I'm very proud to say Governor Newsom gave seed funding for Cal Kids, so that every child born in California since 2022 is given a minimum of $175 to start their college savings program. So we've had incredible success so far. About 600,000 students just since 2022 have their parents, of course, have claimed those accounts. But there are about 5 million accounts altogether that have been opened for those kids. So Fiona, who has endorsed me to succeed her, has been doing a great job getting the word out about these programs. But frankly, I will do everything in my power to help publicize these programs, to raise awareness for the fact that these accounts are being opened and sitting there waiting for California families to find them, identify them, and claim them for their kids. Because we know that when students have these accounts open, they are far more likely to go to college. Am I running over time?
I think I never specified a time, but I'm just worried about some of our other
I'm sorry.
candidates.
I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
that's totally fine. And I'd
All
love
right.
to hear more. And I know we have a question in the chat, but if you're willing to hang around, if we could go through
Sure.
the others.
May I just wrap up in
yes,
10
please.
seconds?
Absolutely.
I'm proud. Thank you. I'm sorry. I couldn't see. So I'm very proud to have been endorsed by Governor Newsom, Fiona Ma, as I mentioned, Nancy Pelosi, and over 25 members of the state legislature. I have total finance funds in my accounts, my reelection, which I'll move over, but also my treasurer's account totaling over $8 million. I've been endorsed also by the Teamsters, Unite Here Local 11, and NUHW. And I will be at my booth at eBoard and would love to talk to each and every one of you and answer any questions and earn your support in my bid to earn the endorsement of the state party. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone for your time.
No problem. And hopefully the question, we'll get the question to you, or if you're around, we'll come back to it. I'm not sure what other people's schedules are. I did see Richard Barrera is here running for SSPI, and Cody mentioned he would like to speak as a candidate. And I know there's at least one other candidate, school board here.
Do you want the question now, Sarah, or were you wanting to hold off?
Let's check with, those candidates. Are you all right if we turn to the Lieutenant Governor and take another minute for those?
Of course. Yes, sure.
Great. People sign. Good.
You.
Okay, yes, please, Matthew.
Oh, so the question that came in was, can you describe the difference constitutionally between the Treasurer's office and the Controller's office, and what your relationship is with current Controller Corrin? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, I'm very honored to have the endorsement of Controller Corrin. We work very closely together. We serve on the State Lands Commission side by side. Look, these are the two most important offices for supporting and managing California's finances. It has been described to me that basically if you were to have a parallel in a business, for instance, that the chief investment officer is the treasurer, and the CFO, chief financial officer, is the controller. So basically, Malia is in charge of collecting the taxes. The state franchise tax board is under her, sending out all the paychecks, managing the accounts to pay our vendors, whereas the treasurer's office is basically in charge of all the cash accounts and all of the investments associated with California's financial health. I'll give you one other little piece of it. There's something called the PMIA, the Pooled Money Investment Account. It's about $160 billion that includes funds from small local governments and other kinds of agencies like water agencies that send their dollars into the treasurer's office. And we basically manage all of those funds together in order to be able to get the best returns. So that's basically the difference in broad strokes, but I don't want to stand before the other candidates have their turn. So let me just say again, you can reach me. My phone number is in the registry as a delegate. But I will be at eBoard at my booth for most of the time that I'm there. And if you are there in person, I hope you can stop by. And if you'd like to reach out, speak to me anytime, please get in touch with me. And I'll look forward to our continuing conversation. And again, as a mom of two, let me just say thank you. Thank you for being part of this caucus and for caring about California kids.
Thank you very, very much. Very much. And thanks for sticking around, and we can do more chattering. I see that Mr. Peterson has his hand up. I just would like to offer Mr. Barrera the next opportunity to discuss SSPI. He'd been in touch with us, and we put that on the agenda, and then we'll move to the floor.
Sure, Sarah, but I'd be happy to defer to my friend and colleague, Cody.
Okay.
It's okay, Richard. You can go. You can go.
I think we're going with you, Cody.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for ceding the floor there. My name is Cody Pedersen. I am running for State Board of Equalization 4th District. I am also Chief Deputy at the State Board of Equalization 4th District, where I've been since 2019. I tacked over for a couple of years to be Supervisor of Law Streamers, Senior Advisor for Land Use Environment. Then I came back 3 years ago as Chief Deputy. I also, to Richard's point, am President of San Diego Unified School District School Board. And I'm also chair of the Regional Housing Finance Authority that we formed recently with the Community College District. I'm also a single father. You can probably hear some TV in the other room of a 4th grader and a 7th grader. I came up through the party. I know many of you in the room. I came up through ADEMS and County Central Committee and State Central Committee. State Executive Board, I was club president at San Diego County Democrats for Environmental Action. So in 2019, when I started the Board of Equalization, was obviously pretty obscure to me as well, mostly because it doesn't have really community-facing roles, but it does have some pretty profound roles once you get on there. We manage $167 billion of assessments. We are not, for state assessees, we're not affected by Prop 13, so we assess on an annual basis. We also issue LTAs, that's the equalization, letters to assessors, that's the equalization portion. And we ensure that assessment practices are equalized across counties to ensure that there's not anybody that, for example, is under assessing or assessing in an inappropriate and inequitable way. We also are the appellate body for the tax on insurers and the alcoholic beverage tax rather. And we also do the assessment practices surveys. And we've, over the last 3 years, I've watched Malia and Tony Vasquez and various chairs and Sally Lieber kind of adapt to the new paradigm post 2017. And we've done a lot of working groups and hearings. We just had a hearing in which Richard Barrera participated on shifting. I think it was the first in the history of the state on shifting toward thinking about how we have public agency workforce housing. I'll just say, I know we're short on time here, but San Diego Unified has the most aggressive education workforce housing agenda in the country. We already have 50 units at Livia. We are contracted for 270 additional ones, and we will issue contracts in December for likely five contracts in December for what is likely to be 1,500 additional units. We'll turn around next year and do more. We will have by the end either under construction or constructed or contracted nearly 2,000 units, and the whole statewide currently has 830 units. So you can see how pronounced our effort is. We also established San Diego Regional Housing Finance Authority, and that's really one of the nexuses that, or the nexi rather, whatever, that I hope to establish with the Board of Equalization. Really, the fundamental challenge for our state, once we get Prop 50 over the line and then Prop 30 and Prop 55 extension over the line, we're going to need to start thinking about how we generate additional revenue for our schools and other services. I am very committed at San Diego Unified. I think we're the first district in the country, from what I understand, to establish as our #1 goal social emotional wellness, and we added physical wellness in there because the student trustees really focused on that. We are moving toward additional 4x4 block scheduling. We need pronounced, profound reforms on special education. We're working on that right now and thinking through what that'll look like in collaboration with LAUSD. I'm happy to come back and talk about what the Board of Equalization does. I think I'm probably one of the few people who can come here and talk about that, unless you bring Malia back in or any of or Fiona Ma back in to talk about that. But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. And I hope to see you in Monterey this weekend.
Thank you. We could have a money
Money,
meeting.
lots of money.
I mean, it really is where everything is at, so we should.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from, there's none in the chat so far, but does anyone have a question for Mr. Peterson or Patterson? Is that right?
Patterson, thank you.
Patterson. I don't see one, but you can drop it in the chat and I'm happy to hook people up. And we have your colleague, Mr. Barrera, running for a different statewide office.
There was just one question to repeat which Board of Equalization district you're running for.
Yes, so there are four districts. I'm the 4th district, which is San Diego, Imperial, Orange County, Riverside, and part of San Bernardino.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Barrera.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. It was a pleasure to follow my my friend and partner in crime, Cody Pedersen, on the San Diego Unified School Board. So I'm Richard Barrera. I'm running for state superintendent of public instruction. I appreciate the Children's Caucus pulling us all together for our recent candidates forum. I am in my 17th year serving on the San Diego Unified School Board. And I'm also a deputy superintendent and senior policy advisor to our current superintendent, Tony Thurmond, at the California Department of Education. My background is I am a first-generation American. My dad came here from Colombia. My grandparents on my mom's side came through Ellis Island. And the sub-district that I've been honored to represent for 17 years now at San Diego Unified is the part of the city of San Diego, which is made up of many first-generation students, immigrant families, hardworking people who are making huge sacrifice so that their kids have a shot at an education and a great life. And unfortunately, it's not a surprise that the public education system, which is the institution in our democracy that actually creates opportunity for all of us, no matter our circumstances, when we come into school, is under attack, and it's under attack from the Trump administration. And frankly, these attacks, although certainly more intense than we've experienced in a long time, are not new. It has always been that people whose goal in life is to protect their own privilege attack our public education system. And when I came on to the San Diego Unified Board, the kind of the downtown business Republican establishment that had controlled San Diego politics for so long was absolutely attacking our public education system and trying to privatize it, actually trying to take away the ability of voters to elect the school board. And we fought back. And when I was elected in 2008, it was a coalition of educators, parents, community organizations, people who care about our public schools that came together, elected a pro-education, pro-labor majority on our board. And because we have stuck together as a community through these challenges, I was elected right when the recession hit, the worst budget cuts in the history of public schools in California. We went through Trump 1, we went through COVID, we're now in Trump 2. But because we stick together as a community around our core values of believing in all of our students and investing in all of our students, San Diego Unified today ranks as the #1 large urban district in the entire nation. When we look at what's called the nation's report card, the National Assessment for Educational Progress, San Diego Unified ranks #1 in the country in both 4th and 8th grade literacy. We're tied for #1 in the country in 8th grade math, and we're at the very top in 4th grade literacy. And among the large urban districts in California, we rank #1 in almost every category: literacy, math, science, graduation rate, college and career readiness rates. But we've gotten there despite the attacks from people who want to tear down the public education system. We've gotten there through a strategy of raising the bar and believing in all of our students and investing in our schools. We directly invest in our educators. We're the model district, according to analysis by the California Teachers Association, in terms of salary, benefits. We provide fully paid family health benefits to all of our employees. Across the nation, about 50% of teachers leave their profession within their first 5 years. But in San Diego Unified, over 90% of teachers stay with us. And that means when we invest in the professional development of our teachers, our students benefit because our teachers stay with us, stay with our district. What we've been able to do in San Diego, we've also gone to our voters 4 times to ask voters to make a sacrifice to actually raise their own property taxes to fund school facilities. And we now have an $11.5 billion bond program that's larger than the entire state of California's bond program in our 1 district. We can do this work that we've been able to accomplish in San Diego across the state. As I think most of us understand, a lot of the big decisions, I would say most of the big decisions that affect students, that affect educators in our state are made by local school boards. They're not made by the state legislature. They're not made by the governor. They're made at the local school board level. And my experience in working as a school board member and in working with many school board members across not only San Diego County, but Northern California, Southern California, I think we can pull the same type of coalitions together in regions throughout the state to create an investment model that in the end benefits our students. And that's the work that I want to do and I want to lead. And the California Department of Education, I think somebody had mentioned how important it is to have organizers, at all levels. I'm an organizer. I'm a labor organizer. I'm a community organizer. And by organizing both at the local level and by turning the California Department of Education into an organizing entity that is primarily focused on supporting good work by progressive people at the community level, we can see real results. We just had a forum, a webinar this morning that I led at CDE, that we had over 800 superintendents, school board members, educators from throughout the state come together to learn best practices in protecting our immigrant students and families. And we had presentations from San Diego and Oakland and Los Angeles. That's the kind of work that we can do at the California Department of Education. We can lift up what's working and push back against this narrative that public schools are failing by showing our success and showing that when we invest in public schools, rather than when we privatize and attack our students and families, we see public schools thrive and we fulfill our mission as the most important institution in our democracy. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank you. This is great. And I know we have one question in the chat and one more, at least one more candidate who wants to speak. So let's hear from Matthew with a question.
This question is for me. My name is Matthew Hilliard. I'm from Mount Shasta, way up in Northern California. So AB 715 was very controversial. It was very divisive. My question, we could talk about the merits of it, but my question more has to do with the fact that all of our teachers unions and all of our teachers associations seem to be united in their opposition to it. And that didn't really get a lot of play in the legislature or with the governor. And I'm worried that our state is moving away from listening to teachers, and there's a politicization of curriculum and of not listening to the people that are on the ground about the problems with some of these bills. So I just would love to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, Matthew, I appreciate it. And I worry about that too. And frankly, this is what happens when the legislature, people in Sacramento try to, solve problems that can actually be solved at the local level. I think AB 715 was a mess from the beginning all the way through. And the reason that you had so many educators oppose it is because it doesn't understand the reality of educators actually trying to be in a classroom, pulling together students from diverse backgrounds to have respectful conversations with each other, where what can emerge from that is a deeper level of understanding. We do that in our classrooms every day. We do that in our local school districts. And frankly, it's the arrogance that I've experienced for 17 years as a local school board member when we see legislators in Sacramento think that they have a better understanding of how to fix education problems than classroom teachers. That's where we run into problems. And the Department of Education should be in service to the people who are closest to our kids. And my goal is to take that big department with 1,500 employees and disperse organizers throughout the state who are there to listen to and work with local educators so that we're actually informing the legislature and the governor about what schools really need, and that the agenda for education policy at the state level is actually coming up from our educators, not top down from Sacramento. So I share your frustration with that process, Matthew, but I also think these types of if our goal is to make sure that, number one, we respect ethnic studies and we understand the importance of teaching the truth to our kids and allowing our kids to see themselves in our curriculum. If we understand the importance of ethnic studies, and we've got plenty of research to show graduation rates and grades and attendance and everything gets better. And at the same time, we want to make sure that all students feel safe and protected, of course, including Jewish students, including Muslim students. Everybody should feel safe and protected in school. And of course, we can accomplish that. These things are not mutually exclusive. They turn into mutually exclusive notions when the legislature is debating things away from the classrooms. But at the local level, we can actually do this and pull it together. And we've got plenty of examples where that's happening. So we need to be less arrogant at the state level and commit ourselves to listening to and supporting the people who are closest to our kids.
I appreciate that answer and also mostly the question. It's a very, as everyone here knows, it's a very contentious question, and it's hard to know how to frame and discuss it in a way that is useful. So thank you. That is a very useful way of addressing the question and moving forward with it. I'd love almost to hear that question repeated to all of our other SSPI candidates. Does anyone else have a quick question?
I think Janine had one in the chat. Janine, do you want to unmute and ask the question?
I think she asked.
Just wanted, thank you. I see. You can, I'm just, wow. School board for 17 years. I thought I misheard that. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Wow. And what are your, are they 4-year terms?
4-year terms. Yeah. I've been elected 5 times. That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. We have another candidate, John Perrone. Thank you, Mr. Barrera, and I'm sure we all know how to contact you. The information is in the chat, and if there are more questions, I'm confident you will address them. Mr. Perrone, did you want to tell us about your candidacy, please?
Yes. I'm new to this. My name is John Perron, Perron, which was the French version before coming to America. Everybody knows me as JP. I'm running for Los Angeles Unified School Board of Education, Local District 6. And I'm not going to give any kind of a spiel. I want to talk about the ethnicity. There's something that my wife and I call the cultural veil. And it's where we are in Los Angeles, there's a situation that has just exploded on us with ICE and where are you from? Where were you born? And I can barely contain myself. So I'll try to keep this short today. And at the next meeting, I'll go into a little bit more depth of my background, which was I chaired the Community Advisory Committee which is one of the central committees for LAUSD, and it's parent-led. I don't want to go into the problems that we've had. I'll save that for next time. But there's a thing that we call the cultural veil. And a lot of people think of a veil as a curtain that somebody might hide behind. But during my term as the chair, I formed something called the Parent Ambassadors. And one of the most important aspects of that was to consider where each person comes from, what they deal with, the fact that we are not homogenized. For example, with parent engagement, there are so many paths within parent engagement. You might have a parent who works 2 jobs and their only engagement might be at the gate or at the parking lot, dropping off their student. And their lesson and their engagement to their student, their child is, you don't want to have to work as hard as me. Get the education, try to elevate. But at the same time, right now, the immediacy of ICE and people coming in and slamming people around for how they look. The cultural veil is not something that people hide behind. It's what they
Mr. Perrone, I just want to mention another, and maybe if you can wrap it up now, because we've just come over time a little bit. Thank you.
I will. It's a little bit tough when somebody says time is up.
I'm sorry. No, please finish.
Okay,
Finish your thoughts.
I'll finish my thought. It's not people hiding behind something. but it's what people wake up in the morning with, and what they cloak themselves with their experience and the generations that came before. Grandparents, generational, the impressions that they came into this world with, and then they came to Los Angeles, that we have to consider each person for their individuality. And right now, obviously, we're seeing it exploding in our face. So I'm running out of time. I'm glad I said I'm not going to talk about all the other stuff because I don't have time. So with that, I'm going to say, please, please, I know everybody on this meeting, we all consider what I just said, what the previous speaker said. My Wi-Fi blew up, so I was gone for a little while, but LAUSD, parental leadership, and the human dignity, that's what we need to be fighting for right now.
Thank you very, very much. I thank you very much. It's a huge school district here in Los Angeles, so there are many people who are interested to hear about your candidacy. And we are past 2 hours. Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us so long and late. I want to ask if there are any requests for adjournment in memory. Well, let me first of all ask, did I miss any candidates? Are there more out here? Please speak now. And if you have a memoriam you would like us to adjourn in heart and mind, Matthew has someone.
So Bob Mulholland, who I think a lot of people in the party know, passed away. I'll be perfectly honest, me and Bob didn't always get along, but he gave a lot to this party, and I want to adjourn in Bob Mulholland's memory. Thank you.
Thank you for that opportunity, and my condolences to one and all. So we will officially adjourn at 9:07. And I'm very happy to keep the Zoom open. And if anybody wants to talk informally and more, please have at it. We don't need to raise your hand. Just hop in and tell us what's on your minds. Or feel free to go home.
To publicize that there are a lot of meetings coming up at the Monterey e-board. I know I won't be able to be physically in Monterey because I'm doing a lot of Prop 50 work, but to everyone here, check out that. I'll see if I can drop it in the chat before we close the chat, but look at the agenda for the e-board, because a lot of caucus and committee meetings are meeting on Zoom, and everyone is allowed to go to those, and there's a lot of great programs that happen at them. So thank you. I know they start in earnest tomorrow, Wednesday night. So thanks.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I also managed to forget that our next, after this e-board, is the convention in February at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. So that's also on the horizon. I just popped the agenda for the e-board in the chat here. Thank you for that point, Matthew. Many of the caucuses are meeting on Zoom, so it's a good opportunity to drop in. Anyone else?
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you for being here.
Do you need a motion, Sarah, or no?
No, I think we're fine.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a great